Arnott air suspension products. Jaguar installation. Removal. Step 1. Releasing tie rod tension. To release the rear axle and tie rod tension, put the car into accessory and the transmission to neutral. This will set the rear axle, releasing the tension. The car may make a sound as the tension is released. This is normal. Removal. Step 2. Disconnecting the battery. To avoid the possibility of short circuits while working with electric components, consult your owner's manual on how to disconnect your battery. Always wear safety glasses when doing automotive maintenance. Removal. Step 3. Removing the trunk side panel. Open the trunk to expose the side panel. To remove the side panel, first detach the plastic plug clip located toward the front of the trunk. Next, reach behind the panel towards the back of the trunk and disengage the clip hidden below the panel. The top of the panel is below the trunk seal. Now, start working the top of the panel free. It may be helpful to lift the floorboard. When the top and bottom of the panel are free, pull it straight out of the trunk to completely remove it from the car. Removal. Step 4. Disassembling upper shock. With the side panel removed, the 4 shock mounting studs and airlines will be exposed. Start by disconnecting the electrical connection to the shock, then proceed to loosen the airline. Air will escape from the airline as it releases from the shock. Remove the 4 bolts from the shock's mounting studs. If wiring restricts access to the bolts, lift up the wire panel and finish loosening them by hand. Removal. Step 5. Detach stabilizer arm. Remove the bolt attaching the stabilizer arm to the hub assembly. This will give the appropriate clearance to remove the shock once it is free. Removal. Step 6. Detach shock from lower control arm. With the appropriate tool, start to loosen the lower control arm bolt. Once the bolt is loose, finish removing it by hand while holding onto the shock. The shock will want to fall because the top mounting studs have been removed. Removal. Step 7. Removing the old shock. Once the shock is free, start to work the shock down. Once past the e-brake cable, the shock will easily come out. Install. Step 1. Preparing the Arnott shock for installation. Before installing the Arnott shock, be sure to remove the 4 top stud bolts. Install. Step 2. Positioning the shock for mounting. Roughly line up the bolt hole of the lower control to the eye on the bottom of the shock. This position will allow the top mounting studs to slide into place. Install. Step 3. Insert the lower control arm bolt. Pull down on the hub assembly to line up the lower bolt hole with the lower control arm mount. With continued pressure applied to the hub assembly, insert the bolt and hand tighten. With the appropriate tools, tighten the lower control arm bolt until it is snug. Install. Step 4. Reconnect the stabilizer arm. Line the stabilizer arm back up to the mount on the rear of the hub assembly. Insert the bolt up through the bottom of the stabilizer arm mount and hand tighten the nut. With the appropriate tools, tighten the nut until it is snug. Install. Step 5. Reassembling the upper shock mount. From the trunk of the car, locate the upper mount studs. Start by hand tightening the mounting bolts. With the appropriate tools, finish tightening all of the bolts. Reattach the airline hose. Proceed to tightening the airline fitting. Reconnect the electrical connection to the shock. Install. Step 6. Reconnecting the battery. To avoid the possibility of short circuits while working with electric components, consult your owner's manual on how to reconnect your battery. Install. Step 7. Replace paneling. Start by inserting the panel straight back into the trunk. Work in the bottom of the panel first. Once the bottom of the panel is in, work the top of the panel in place under the trunk seal. When the panel is in position, reattach the appropriate clips. Installation completed. Congratulations! Lower the car to test drive and check the installation.